What is up, everybody? Welcome to the dungeon. I'm about to do your weekly tarot reading. For all the zodiac signs, please keep in mind these readings are general and they may not resonate with everybody. Do remember to check out your moon and rising sign because you may resonate with them as well. What I'll be doing is I'll be pulling one card for the overall energy of the month, and then I will pull one more card for the love energy of the month. Everybody wants to know about love, but not everybody has love in their life. So let's go ahead and get things started with Aries. All right, so let's see what is going on with Aries. Where I'm going to put this, my mouse, right here. Okay. All right, so let's see what's going on with Aries. What kind of energy will Aries encounter over the next week? What is going on with Aries in the next week? What kind of energy will Aries encounter over the next week? What is going on with Aries? There we go. I knew something was off. Sorry about that, you guys. Had something off with the beat there, but I got rid of it. Anyways, we fixed it. All right, Aries, we have the Nine of Swords here. So with this Nine of Swords energy, Aries, you are going to be really, really stressed out, having lots and lots of anxiety. Some of you may just be having a really, really rough week. But you know what? It's your choice whether or not to allow the negativity to consume you or not. Now, I know that kind of sounds a little off to some people. If I had heard it in my younger days, it would sound off to me as well, because I feel very, very deeply, very, very strongly, and I cannot control how strongly I feel. However, I can control if I'm going to let it ruin my day or not. And it can be hard. It can be a battle, okay? I'm not sitting here saying it lightly, just choose to be happy. No, I'm not saying that lightly. And I'm not even saying choose to be happy. I'm just saying don't let it ruin your day. Don't let it ruin your vibe. Even if your vibe gets off track for a little while, don't let it ruin everything. Don't let it spoil everything or put a negative undertone or overtone on everything, okay? But you may be having a hard time sleeping. I'm gonna be real, which definitely could leave you prone to even more sensitivity. I think you should definitely be sure to take time for yourself so that you have time to feel these feelings, because to stuff them down is going to lead to some sort of destruction in the future, be it self-destruction or external destruction. So definitely allow yourself to feel these feelings and work through them. They're trying to tell you something. Okay, if you don't already have the message, like you may have the message and that may be stressing you out. Or you may be, maybe you have some sort of suspicions about something that's going on. This is like the what if card. This is the everything is running through my mind at once card. If this involves somebody else on some level, it would benefit you to have a conversation with them when you're ready, but it would benefit you to have a conversation with them because it may not be as bad as it seems. It may not be as bad as you're building it up to be inside your mind. Now let's see what's going on in your love life, Aries. What kind of energy will Aries encounter in their love life over the next week? What is going on with Aries? What kind of energy will Aries encounter over the next week in their love life? I should specify that. What's going on in Aries' love life over the next week? Aries, you have the Four of Wands here. So with the Four of Wands, you're really focused on commitment in your relationship. If you are dating somebody, you want to bring it to a level of commitment. You want to raise the bar a little. Maybe move in together. This could be, and this isn't just dating. Maybe if you are already in a committed relationship, you're deciding to move in together, or maybe get a home together. Well, that is moving in together. But as it, like, actually, like, you're both on the lease, as opposed to it being one person's place that the other person moves into. You may be having some insecurities or doubts about this situation, but it looks like you're really fighting hard not to let those get to you. You're trying to focus more on your partner and what they are saying and showing you and offering you, as opposed to the ghosts inside your mind. This Nine of Swords energy could have an influence here on your love life, to where you are feeling somewhat insecure. Maybe you think your partner is into somebody else, and just extremely concerned about this. But again, this is a situation that you do need to bring up with your partner and discuss with them, because your insecurities could be getting the best of you. Your paranoia could be getting the best of you. So definitely talk to your partner if you're having some sort of doubts or insecurities about your relationship. If it is a healthy one, they will have no problem giving you validation. But one or both of you may actually have somebody who is trying to get your attention. And so, but I think that even if you or the other party are noticing this other person, you're still more focused on your relationship. You're focused on your commitment. So it's like one of those things where somebody may be hitting on your person, but they're good because they love you. It's all good because they love you more than they like that attention. Okay? Cheers. Thank you for showing up. Hate that I missed you, but thank you for showing up. All right, moving on to my Taurians. By the way, if anybody, talks in chat, I usually try to wait until I have a break in the reading before I check it out. Otherwise, it'll just totally knock me off guard or off my train of thought. Okay, so let's hop into Taurus. Let's see what's going on with Taurus over the next week. Okay, what kind of energy will Taurus encounter over the next week? Taurus, you have the Four of Swords here. So with this Four of Swords energy, you may be taking time out to yourself, and you're working on getting back into balance. There may be some things that have occurred recently, or maybe even in the past, that have bubbled up that it's really getting to you. It's really getting to you. It's something you got to work through, and it's something that only you can work through. So you are kind of taking this time out to yourself. It's not necessarily something you want to share with other people, but you could be one of those people where it's all over your face. And so that's kind of why you got to step away from people a little bit, because you don't want to deal with the questions. You might bust out crying because of whatever is just affecting you on a deep level. Like if you talk about it, you may feel like you're going to bust out crying, and you're not really wanting to bust out crying in front of somebody. So you're just trying to deal with this on your own. Plus, you kind of don't really trust other people's perspectives. I don't think you trust very many people right now. Not more than you trust yourself. And sometimes when there are a bunch of people around you all the time, you can get more confused, you can lose touch with yourself. So you're definitely taking this time to get back into touch with yourself, to face the truth about some sort of heartache or stress you've been dealing with, or you have dealt with in the past that you never really worked through. You're trying to work through those things now. And it's going to be very beneficial to your well-being. Even if you don't have some sort of issues that you're trying to heal from, Perhaps you are just overworked, you are just tired and exhausted, and you really need to take time for yourself to rest. Self-care, very, very important. So definitely take that time if you need it. All right, let's see what's going on in your love life, Taurus. What is going on in Taurus's love life over the next week? What kind of energy will Taurus encounter in their love life over the next week? What is going on with Taurus? What's going on with Taurus over the next week in their love life? All right, Taurus, you have the Emperor. So some of you may be trying to bring some structure to your relationship. Perhaps there has been an uncertainty. There's been a bit of, oh, what are we, going on? And so you're trying to bring some more clarity, structure, a foundation. You're trying to make sure that you and your partner are on the same page. You want a commitment, basically. Those of you who are already committed, either you or the other person may be becoming kind of controlling, possibly possessive, in extreme circumstances. If it's not like a controlling, possessive, borderline abusive or straight up abusive situation, this is just kind of like OCD vibes, where it's like you want to have control over everything around you because otherwise you're going to lose your mind. And this can bleed into your relationship. So, in a sense, you may be trying to control yourself and how you feel. Perhaps you are inclined to these thoughts of paranoia that do lead to possessiveness, and perhaps you are aware of this and you're trying to check yourself right now. You're trying to break patterns that you have, carried out multiple times in the past. You don't want to make the same mistakes. Those of you who are single and not dating, you're not really letting it get to you. It doesn't really bother you that you're single and that you're not dating at all. You're feeling pretty strong and confident in who you are. You're totally okay being on your own, especially taking into consideration this Four of Swords energy here. It's general energy. It will affect your love life. So it's like you are working on bettering yourself. You're working through past issues from past relationships, working to heal them because you are aware of how they have influenced you moving forward. Perhaps your issues from past relationships have sabotaged ones that you have attempted to be involved in since then. So you're really trying to take control of your love life by working on yourself, because you do realize that, hey, maybe I'm part of the problem. And that self-awareness is really going to do you good in the long run, because you are going to be working to evolve and change into a better person. Nobody's perfect. We all have flaws and we all have room to grow. Unfortunately, some people don't realize that. Unfortunately, some people think they're fine the way they are and that they don't cause any problems or anything like that. So if you are a person who has that self-awareness, you're doing good. You're doing good. So even if you're feeling bad, you're doing good. What is up, Avery? I am reading general energy, so I cannot answer that question for you. All right, let's move on to Gemini. What is going on with Gemini? What kind of energy will Gemini encounter over the next week? Yes, I'm reading energy. Even though I'm saying over the next week, I mean energy. I don't mean, hey, I'm going to predict the future. Energy can linger. It can shift rapidly or it can linger for a while. So I'm just reading energy. So what is going on with Gemini over the next week? What kind of energy will Gemini encounter? We have The Empress. So Gemini, you are entering a new phase in your life, a rebirth, if you will. Some things have come to an end, perhaps a drastic end. If not a drastic end, a conclusion, and that was necessary, and it was necessary for your growth. So for there to be birth, there has to be death. For there to be a beginning, there has to be an end. And typically there's that gestation period, and I feel like you are starting to come out of that gestation period and see things from a different perspective, in a different light, and going in a new direction, redirecting yourself on a new path. Some of you may be pregnant, finding out you're pregnant, you may be finding out somebody else is pregnant. There's a real focus on motherhood here. So even if you are not pregnant, perhaps, you and your mom are spending a lot more time together, or you may be a bit concerned about her. Maybe they are having some sort of issues. I'm not trying to wish that on anybody, but maybe they're having some sort of struggles, and you're a little bit more involved in their life than you typically are. I don't think this is something... Well, no, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say I don't think this is something that you resent, but I think in some situations, yeah, there is a little bit of resentment there. If this is a result of your parent not taking care of themselves or not handling their responsibilities, you're not really happy about being the cleanup crew. You know what I'm saying? But you love this person, so it is what it is. If it's not your mother, it's some type of motherly figure. There may be some of you who are having a hard time getting this new start off of the ground. Like, you want to start over fresh. You want to, maybe even act like what happened didn't happen, or just leave the past in the past to where it feels like it didn't happen. Like, okay, that happened, but it was forever ago. Even if it was yesterday, you're trying to distance yourself from it because you want to move on to a new phase in your life. Okay, let's see what's going on in your love life, Gemini. What is going on in Gemini's love life over the next week? What kind of energy will Gemini encounter? What is going on in Gemini's love life? Okay, Gemini, you have the Knight of Pentacles. So if you are in a committed relationship, you and your partner are good. You have a steady relationship. You can depend on each other. You work well together. I think maybe you are entering into a new phase of your relationship. Because relationships, long-term ones, they go through phases, they evolve. That's how they last. And so I think that maybe you and your partner are working through and leaving, working on leaving the chaos behind you and starting over fresh, anew, and just being like, okay, that happened. Let's move on. We're working through this. We're moving on and we're moving forward. We're not going back. This is just, we put too much time and effort and energy into this. It's too important to you. If you are dating or seeing somebody, you're not really in a rush. This is not something you're trying to do quickly. You are not love bombing, and you are not falling for the love bombing. You are taking it slow because perhaps you have fallen for the love bombing in the past, and you've learned better, you know better, and you are trying to enter into this new phase of your life where you are not repeating the same mistakes. And you've put a lot of effort and energy into this. So it's like you're one of the mistakes you've made multiple times is jumping into things very quickly, feet first, possibly even head first instead. And next thing you know, you realize you jumped into the shallow end and you really fucked yourself up. So it's like you're trying to take your time to see what's really going on, as opposed to, say, committing within the first month. Those of you who are single and not dating, I could say the same. You are definitely not in a rush to date. It's not a priority to you. It's not of the utmost importance. If anything, what is important to you right now is to clear out the wreckage of the past, be able to leave it behind you, and not in a way where you are kind of repressing things, not in a way where you're not working through what happened. You're trying to move on away in a way where you have worked through what has happened. And if anything, you're kind of happy that you're single as you're going through it, because you don't want to have to explain yourself to somebody, you know, if you're distant, or, you know, especially like, how are you going to explain to somebody, you know, a current relationship that you keep thinking about, your past relationship, unless you frame it in a way where it's like, had these issues with yada, 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 as opposed to, but even then, you know, it could become very clear from even saying this stuff, like, okay, this person still has feelings here. They still feel some type of way. And as long as they still feel some type of way about this, they could never feel that way about me. And that's the way I want to be loved. And honestly, like, you want to be able to love somebody that way. You want to be able to give them all of it. You don't want to have this piece that's left over because you left it with somebody else. You're trying to let go of that. So, again, you know, you're not trying to rush into a relationship. You're not in a hurry to date or anything. It is not a priority. Right now, you are just trying to be a better version of you than you have been before. You're actively trying to work through and heal these emotions. Again, there's a self-awareness here that if you carry this shit moving forward, relationships can suffer. So you're working on doing better. You know, you want to do better because you don't want to get into another failed relationship. Let's move on to Cancer. Let's see what's going on with Cancer over the next week. What kind of energy will Cancer encounter? What is going on with Cancer? Cancer, you have the King of Pentacles here. So with the King of Pentacles here, you're really focused on your stability, both financial, mental, and emotional. You want something you can count on. And you know that the only person you can count on is yourself. Like, and I don't mean that in a resentful way. You know, sometimes people are like resentful and bitter about not being able to count on somebody to have their back. I don't think that's how you feel. I think you just know that at the end of the day, when things go awry and your world falls apart, you're the only one that can save you. So again, there's self-awareness there. You know, at the end of the day, you're the only one that has your back. You have control of your life, well, to a certain extent, because, you know, the universe doesn't give a fuck about our plans, but you have control over how you experience life. At the end of the day, it's up to you. People can talk to their blue in the face, but at the end of the day, it's up to you. And so that's where you are. It's not oh, I can't depend on anybody because people just suck. It's more so like, no, I got to deal with this myself. Nobody can deal with it for me. Nobody's going to come in and on a white horse and save me. This is up to me, you know. So you're really focused on bringing stability into your life. You may be extremely focused on your career, your home, being able to provide for the people that are important to you, first of all, for the people that are dependent on you, but you also want to be able to have a little extra so that you can help other people out. Perhaps you are one that has needed help a lot in the past, and you want to reciprocate. You want to be able to return the favor. You know what, though? I think it's important for you to understand in some cases that, ooh, I even got my tinglies, my confirmation tinglies. I think it's important for you to realize that in some cases you have already reciprocated this help. You don't necessarily need money to help people. You know, perhaps they have helped you financially, but the type of person you are innately, your support as a friend, even if you're not a friend, like there are people whose lives you may affect and you don't even really know. All it takes is one sentence, one simple conversation you can have with a stranger that completely changed their perspective on life. And perception is reality. If you have one shift in perception, it can change your whole life. And really, you know, I think you've helped out a lot more people than you realize just by being you, by being caring, by being loving, by being accepting, by being understanding of people not being perfect. And everybody, you know, we all have our mood swings. Of course you understand that, right, Cancer? Very, very empathetic. So I think that you may be selling yourself short, not giving yourself enough credit. In some cases, you actually have already been able to help people, just not in a monetary way. So some of you may actually be starting to recognize that. If you have not up to this point, I set off a little, I said that one thing that shifted your perception. So it's like, it literally, all it takes is one insight, you know, and it can completely change somebody's life. So you may, again, I reiterate, you may have helped out a lot more people than you realize, but that doesn't change how you feel. And sometimes you feel extremely unstable and you can't see this because of how, it's like you're so focused on how unstable you feel, you can't really see the good you have done. You're caught up in your emotions. But it's very important that you take the time to see that, because maybe you won't beat yourself up as much. Perhaps you need that shift in perspective. It'll make you feel stronger. You will feel empowered. Let's see what's going on in your love life. What's going on in Cancer's love life over the next week? What kind of energy will Cancer encounter over the next week? What's going on with Cancer? Cancer, you also have the Knight of Pentacles energy here. So, yeah, you know, if you are in a committed relationship, this is somebody you can count on. You know, there are some things that people can help you with, and where you feel as if you lack, your partner pulls up the slack. It's kind of like, if you're down, they got you. If they're down, you got them. You know, y'all are looking out for each other. Even though at the end of the day, you both know that it's up to the other party to get through this, you're still like holding their hand. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes all you need is someone to hold your hand through the tears, through the chaos, and just, you know, that's all you need. Sometimes that's all you need. And this person has consistently done that for you. So you are extremely focused on continuing to build and nurture that connection, because it's of the utmost importance to you. Being able to provide security to your partner and also be provided with security. It is very, very important to you. You know, we all need a little validation when a relationship is starting, and some of us, you know, need a little bit more validation than others based upon our past history. And I think both you and your partner understand this and are patient with each other and are working to grow together. Similarly to Gemini, if you're dating, I really don't think you're in a rush. It's not something you are trying to do overnight. You know how deeply and quickly you can be attached to somebody, and you two are trying to break patterns. There has been more than once where you have been taken advantage of because of this tendency you have. And so you are attempting to stop yourself from making any quick decisions in regards to your love life. Like, you may be actively doing this right now. Perhaps you have an inclination to jump into things, but you're stopping yourself because you know that there's still things that need to be revealed. There's still details that you do not know and that are important to know moving forward. You're starting to learn. You're starting to see the pattern. Pattern recognition is very important, and it's a skill. Pattern recognition has a lot of influence on what I'm doing right now. So it's something that some people are better at than others, but at the same time, if you are caught up in your feels, as you oftentimes get, Cancer, it can be hard to see those patterns when you're blinded by your emotions. So you are recognizing this and making sure you don't jump so quickly into things. And again, the same energy can be applied to your to you if you're not dating. This is very similar to Gemini's love energy. Very, very similar. You know, you're not in a rush to be involved. You are enjoying life on your own. You like the stability you have brought yourself. You like the structure you have brought to your own life. You like the peace that you have brought yourself. You're not in a rush to bring somebody else's energy into that, especially if they got issues. And it's not like you're trying to judge people that have issues. It's just that you know that you have issues that you're trying to work on, and you don't really have the space or energy to help somebody else with theirs. You don't. You are attempting to break away. I was going to say breaking away. You are working and attempting to break away from the savior complex that you have. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Because it gets in the way. It gets in the way of you receiving the same love that you're giving. So you're stopping yourself from trying to save everybody, basically. And you're working on saving yourself. All right. And that goes back to this energy of, you're the only one you can count on. You know, at the end of the day, it's up to you. Somebody can hold your hand through the process, but at the end of the day, it's up to you. All right, moving on to Leo. What is going on with Leo over the next week? What kind of energy will Leo encounter? What is going on with Leo? What kind of energy will Leo encounter over the next week? Leo, we are officially in Leo season. Where my Leos at? My birthday's coming up, you guys. It's my birthday. Okay, not today, but it is coming up. I will be the big 4-0. Yes, the big 4-0. All right, let's see what's going on in Leo's world? What kind of energy will Leo encounter over the next week? Leo, you have the Eight of Pentacles. So you are really focused on work in your career. If you are not employed, you are still actively putting work in, whether you are like working on your home. You know, you may have some sort of hobbies that you're putting a lot of energy into and working to develop, perhaps even working to develop your hobbies into an occupation, trying to find a way to make money from what you love to do and what you're naturally good at. Perhaps you have tried a lot of other things. Perhaps you have tried all of those things that people tell you to do, those go-to things, working in the medical field, just like working in these fields where you are supposed to be successful. And have, good income and stability. And perhaps you have attempted to do these things and they are just not working out for you. They have not worked out for you. And so you, at this point, are inclined to kind of revert back to what you know best. This could be good or bad, depending on your circumstances, because what some people may know how to do best is, well, things that aren't exactly legal. But it's not necessarily that case, but some of you, yeah, you're extremely focused on your grind, creating stability in your home, in your life, and just being productive. You want to be productive. You don't want to just sit around and let time go by. You want to make something happen. And again, perhaps you've been trying to for quite some time and you've been having a very difficult time getting things off the ground in the past, and you're just kind of redirecting and trying to find new ways to generate income and generate some sort of stability in your life, because this is not necessarily just income. Like, you could be actively working on issues, working on, like, say, your dynamic with your family. Either way, you are working to build something. You are actively putting energy into creating something of value. So something of value is not necessarily money. It's the go-to when you say value, but it's not necessarily money. It's something that you value, that's important to you. Let's see what's going on in your love life, Leo. What is going on in Leo's love life? What kind of energy will Leo encounter in their love life over the next week? What kind of energy will Leo encounter in their love life over the next week? What's going on with Leo? I feel like this is kind of a theme. We have the Four of Swords. So the reason I'm saying this is kind of turning into a theme here is because the Four of Swords is about healing. It's about keeping to yourself, so you may be a little bit distant from your partner if you are actually living with them. If you are not living with them but still committed, you're keeping to yourself. You're not really trying to go out much. You're not feeling up to company because you got stuff going on inside of you. And this may not even just be relationship issues. You could be struggling. Like I was saying, you've been trying to make some things happen. It's not working out for you and you're having a really hard time. And, taking into consideration or thinking about the perspective of Cancer's energy of, like, I got to do this. That's what it is. You're like, with the Four of Swords, the Four of Swords is about isolating yourself so that you can work on healing and doing better. And this doesn't necessarily just mean issues. This could also be like you are burnt out. You have been burning the candle at both ends and you need a break. You need some self-care. So you are distancing yourself from your partner so that you can obtain this. This is all around. This is if you're in a relationship, if you're dating, if you're single, either way, you are kind of isolating yourself so you can work through these things because you know you're the only one that can do it. Other people can give you their perspectives, etc., etc. And maybe, you know, they can point out something that will change your perspective. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. And perhaps you feel like you have talked this to death already. And so it's like, okay, I've talked about this a million times. I really need to like figure it out so that I can stop talking about it because I'm getting annoyed with myself. So it's like, even if the people I'm talking to aren't getting annoyed by me constantly talking about the same thing, I'm getting annoyed. So it's like you're trying to work through these things, clear it out so you can move forward. You don't want to obsess over this stuff anymore. And it has gotten to that point to where you are obsessing. But you're doing good, you know, you are, I think that it's a very smart decision to just take that time to work on yourself to get to a better place. Greetings, Alexander. You are just in time because that's who we're working on next. We are working on Virgo. What's up, Virgo gang? What kind of energy will Virgo encounter over the next week? What is going on with my Virgos? What kind of energy will Virgo encounter? You know what, now that I think a bit about it, usually by the time I get to Virgo, I have picked up on the overall theme. Because I've said before, and I will say time and time again, we are all experiencing the same energy in our own individual ways. Me listing off the signs kind of narrows it down a little bit. All right, let's see what energy Virgo will encounter. What is going on with Virgo over the next week? Okay, Virgo, you have the Seven of Wands. So you may be involved in a situation or in situations where you are feeling defensive. If you feel like you have to explain yourself or argue your point. And in some instances, you may just be straight up blocking people. In some instances, you don't even want to deal with it. You don't want to even put the time and energy into the debate, into the argument, into the debate. You don't want to have to explain yourself. But in some certain circumstances, you are willing to. If it's important enough to you, if the other party is important enough to you, you will do what you need to do. You will state your case, if you will. You will give your opinion, explain what you're trying to do, whatnot. But I do think that some of you may be feeling like you're under attack constantly. Like maybe you're receiving a lot of criticism and you're just really trying not to let it get to you. Because the thing is Virgo, you know, you're also kind of known to be a bit critical, a bit hyper critical, if you will. But oftentimes what people don't even think about or consider is that you are just as critical of yourself, if not more. So it's like when other people criticize you, it really gets to you, especially if they hit on something that's real, especially if they call you out on your bullshit. Then it really, really gets to you. And you really, really put your defenses up. But the thing is like, even though you're putting your defenses up, this is being triggered by you being called out, you know, and sometimes that needs to happen. You know, sometimes people need to put us in our place, you know, especially if you're the one that's always putting other people in their place. Sometimes need to be knocked off your high horse, because nobody is perfect and nobody does everything perfect. But you don't like being called out. You don't like it when people notice your flaws because they are, you know, glaring to you anyways. You just try to hide them without trying to hide them. I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense to the Virgos. I know it makes sense to the Virgos, and I know it makes sense to the people that really, really know Virgos, that have dealt with a lot of Virgos. It's like, to a certain extent, like there's a certain level where Virgo kind of shuts off, and with certain people they will let you go beyond that, but otherwise not so much. And it's not necessarily that they're actively hiding things, that's just how they are. There's just a certain level that you can't get to, that only certain people can get to. Only certain people can break through this, and you're not trying to let anybody break through this right now. Let's see what's going on in your love life, Virgo. What is going on in Virgo's love life over the next week? What is going on with Virgo over the next week in their love life? I'm getting a little tired of seeing this card. It's not a negative card. I don't think it's a negative card. You guys, I'm shuffling, okay? I'm not just like flipping it over, but I am shuffling. We have the Knight of Pentacles for Virgo's love life. Again, taking it slow. Slow and steady. Slow and steady wins the race. It does. I think if you are in a long-term or committed relationship with somebody, they may call you out on some BS, and you may be inclined to come back at them with some BS, but you really care about this person, you know, so you're stopping yourself, because you do understand that you're not perfect, and from some people you are willing to hear this. From some people the guard is not up. Very few special, significant people special to you, and you're just trying not to react in this defensive manner, this Seven of Wands defensive manner. You're trying to be more receptive to what they have to say, because you know that you can't just walk away from this. Like in other situations, you can just walk away and say, fuck it, I ain't dealing with you, etc., etc. But if you are in this long-term committed relationship, that happens, you know, like in I was going to say in a healthy relationship, but sometimes people do it in a very unhealthy manner. But in relationships, you know, people will kind of be a mirror. They can be a mirror, because when you're in a relationship, it kind of brings out things in you that you don't show most people. So this person knows you. They know you better than most, and you know they know you, and you know they're right. You know they're right, and that's why you're trying not to react so defensively. You're trying to actually let it land, receive the information from a perspective of constructive criticism as opposed to destructive criticism. But like I said, in some cases, this can go overboard. In some cases, you may be dealing with destructive criticism. But you're still trying to hold back from acting a fool. You're trying to do better. You're trying to be better in your relationships. Like, even if this seems to be kind of not really working out so well, you're still trying to be better, because you know that this is a repetitive pattern. This is not something you just do with this person. Like, it happens with people that are around you the most, the people that are closest to you. So you're trying to be receptive, trying not to like instantly react defensively. This is just something else you got to work through. You know, committed long-term relationships, if they're going to last, you got to work through these things. You know, it's not like your partner's perfect. Their stuff's going to come up too. And of course, you're going to call them out on it. Best believe you're going to call them out. So you are trying to show the same respect that you would like to receive. If you are dating or single and not dating, part of the reason that you are not trying to rush into a relationship, that's a huge part. You don't really want somebody to get beyond that limit right now. You don't want to let somebody see who you really are right now, because it's never really a comfortable thing for you. Just in general, it's very uncomfortable for you, and you may be kind of recovering from having done this recently. So perhaps you had been dealing with somebody where, you know, you've been taking in a lot of criticism, and you're not necessarily ready to show your flaws to other people. You're not really open to doing that yet. Your guard's up, basically. Big time. Okay, let us move on to my Libras. Libra, Libra, Libra. There we go. Let us see what is up with Libra. What kind of energy will Libra encounter over the next week? What is going on with Libra over the next week? What kind of energy will Libra encounter? What is going on with Libra over the next week? So it looks like we are all, in general, just kind of really focused on working on the issues that we have, our personal issues. Okay, Libra, you have the Eight of Cups here. So, you may be involved in a situation that you feel like you need to walk away from. You feel like you need to leave. Things aren't working out the way you want them to, the way you hope they would, the way you've been putting a lot of energy, I think, and effort into making this work, and it's not. And this isn't an easy choice for you. This isn't an easy decision. This isn't something you take lightly. This is actually very difficult for you. If you look at this card, he's got all this crazy inside his mind. This is something that has been going on, you've been thinking about for a while, unfortunately. And it's just gotten to a point where you can't ignore it. You can't act like it's not happening. You have to walk away. And if you hold on to the situation, it's really going to drag you down. It's already like really fucking with your head. It's already really, really fucking with your head. And, you know, you've tried to work it out to where it's not fucking with your head anymore, and it's not. And it's like, you got to choose peace. You have to walk away from this situation. It is really, really hard for you. It is really, really hard for you. And some situations you really, really don't want to let go, but you're starting to realize that you need to. We can't always get what we want, but we try sometimes. you might find you get what you need. Rolling Stones. All right, let's see what's going on in your love life. I think that's pretty plain and simple and direct right there. Let's see what's going on in Libra's love life over the next week. I'm going to try to shuffle these a lot more. And if the Knight of Pentacles still comes out, oh my goodness. Okay. What's going on in Libra's love life over the next week? I'm a trip if it does. Let's see what's going on in Libra's love life over the next week. What kind of energy will Libra encounter in their love life over the next week? Okay, we have the Four of Swords again. Healing. It's like, again, you're starting to realize, things aren't going the way you would like them to go in your relationship. So you are distancing yourself. Big time. You're very distant from your partner. Because, oh wait, no. Well, yeah, I think you still are. I just realized this isn't the Four of Swords. This is the Five of Swords. Y'all probably realized that a moment ago when I showed it to y'all. This is the Five of Swords. So lots of drama. Lots of drama going on in your love life. If you are in a committed relationship or dating, it's not going as well as you would like it to go. There could be a lot of arguing, a lot of bickering. Some people could be being straight up deceitful and manipulative. One person may be taking advantage of the other. It's just not good. It's not good at all. And I think this is something that you have tried to talk about, you've tried to work through, you've tried to save this situation, and the other person has presented themselves as if they are as well, but maybe coming to find that it's not the case. Or maybe they did try, but then it's like things went awry again. And next thing you know, they're doing something trifling behind your back. And so it's like you're trying to prevent the separation and have an honest conversation, etc., but it's going sideways. And as a result of it going sideways, it's like your partner's coming back around to say fuck you and just honestly be very hurtful. Something may be happening that is extremely hurtful. And it like really smacks you in the face that you need to remove yourself from this situation, because it's not good. It's not good for either of you. And in some cases, one or both of you may be trifling and abusive. But in other cases, sometimes people just don't mesh. Sometimes people just, they want different things from life. They expect different things from relationships. And sometimes, when people go into relationships, they kind of expect the other person to be on the same level because there's this mutual attraction, etc. But you may come to find later that like y'all don't really want the same things for a relationship. You don't really see relationships in the same way. And I think that may have been what has been happening, in that there has been attempted conversations about this, about, stating your needs, both of you, because it's like you want it to work. There's that love, that's there. But it's like at the same time, you're starting to realize that you love in different ways. You don't mesh romantically. One of you expects certain things from a relationship, or thinks a relationship should be a certain way. Another person, has a different idea of what that is. And even though you may have tried to compromise and work through things, you're both still very, very unhappy because you're both still not getting what you want. So it's just another situation that's really stressful, and you don't really want to walk away from it, but it's like becoming very, very apparent to you that you need to. If you are single, you are struggling with the aftermath of a relationship that is like this, or was like this. You're dealing with a lot of very difficult feelings in regards to this, because I think that you really did care a lot, and that you really did want it to work a lot, and you really did try to put in the effort, but I think it may be easy to fall prey to the whole, it's just never enough, it wasn't enough, it's just never enough. I think it could be easy to fall prey to that, but what it really comes down to is y'all just want different things, and sometimes some people are just incapable of certain things. Sometimes people just aren't able to provide you with the things that you need. And instead of that being recognized and addressed, it just turns into a bunch of chaos and a huge blame game, a lot of manipulation and hurt, and just a lot of difficult emotions and feelings. And so you may be dealing with the aftermath of a relationship like that. It's very hurtful. It's not something that you want to feel, but you need to work through it. But at the same time, I think it's like you still have one foot in. Even though it's over, there's no commitment, you're not dating, they still have a piece of your heart. And even though you know that things can't work, you really wish it was different. And you're just kind of having a hard time working through those things right now. Okay. Let's move on to Scorpio. What is going on with Scorpio? What kind of energy will Scorpio encounter over the next week? What is going on with Scorpio? What kind of energy will Scorpio encounter? Okay, I did shuffle, you guys. I did shuffle. When the same card comes out repeatedly like this, I am always so inclined to reshuffle. I have to stop myself. And I was very inclined just now to reshuffle, but I had to stop myself. It's coming out for a reason. You're dealing with the same energy. It's like, yo, I gotta leave this situation. It's not good for me. It's not good for me. It's not healthy, and it's definitely really fucking with my head. I'm not like this typically. So I'm talking about general energy right now. So you may have found yourself in situations that are bringing out the worst in you, and you're starting to recognize that. You're starting to recognize that, like, you have been feeling and acting a certain type of way for a while, but you're just now starting to understand why. You're starting to understand that there are certain things about your circumstances or the people that you are dealing with that are really fucking with you. They're really getting to your head, and they're affecting you in a very negative way. And this is a situation that you need to remove yourself from. It may be very difficult, though. Like, perhaps if this is a job environment, this isn't something that you can't just walk away from. You have to, there has to be some sort of planning involved. I mean, this is your income. This is how you provide for yourself. So, You know, you want to try to kind of get a job lined up so that the transition is smooth. You don't want to leave one job and not have another to go to. There are some situations, yeah, that you can't walk away from immediately, i.e. what I just said, but it's not just that scenario. You know, this could play out in other scenarios, like, say, if you're living with somebody, you know, you're going to have to wait until you save up enough money to leave, you know, and not just the money, but that you have a place lined up to go to, you know. So it's like, and you're really stressed out about this because it's like something you want to just up and do it now. You know, you want to just up and go right now, but you got to be smart about it. All right, let's see what's going on in your love life, Scorpio. What kind of energy? If this is the Knight of Pentacles that just flew out, I don't know if I can interpret it any other way. Actually, I probably can. But no, it's not. We have the Three of Cups. So here with the Three of Cups, if you are in a committed relationship, long-term, you and your partner may have, like, recently, quote-unquote, made up, if you will. Like, there may have been some sort of conflict, and you guys kind of came to an understanding, and you're like, okay, moving on. But the issue remains. The problem is still there. So it's like, even though you may have worked things out, quote unquote, you have not worked things out. The problem is still there, and you know it. You know it deep inside. And in some circumstances, there may be other people involved. I got my tinglies. So that, yeah, that does mean that, in some circumstances, there are other people involved. And, you know, in some scenarios, it's like, yeah, you know, you try to work it out, but there are already other people involved. And so even though you're like, okay, we're going to work it out, the next time you have issues, this person goes to the other person. So it's like, it's not really working out. It's like they're working it out with the other person. They're working out what's going on between you and them with this other person. Like, they're talking to them about it instead of talking to you. And it's just like, what the fuck, you know? You're just like, what the fuck? I'm trying here, you know? And again, so we have that Eight of Pentacles or Eight of Cups energy. It's like, this is not good. I can't keep doing this to myself. And it's like, you know, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. I can't keep doing this to myself. I deserve better. Like, perhaps you have been in a state of mind for quite some time that you're a crappy person and you deserve it. But you're finally getting to the point where you're like, no, like, this is not cool. I do not deserve this. No matter how crappy I am, I do not deserve this. I wanted to say a but there, and the only reason I wanted to say that is because, you know, if it's not okay to be abusive. It's not okay to be abusive. And if you are an abusive person and somebody is cheating on you, and it's like you're being self-righteous, like, I don't deserve this. I'm not saying that you do deserve this. Like, if it's to a point of cheating, you should not be together. I'm just saying, don't be so self-righteous. You're not perfect either, okay? You're not perfect either. And it's just a situation that you need to walk away from because it's not good for either of you. If you were just dating, you're seeing multiple people, you know, you're not necessarily focused on just one person, but you're starting to realize, you know, maybe I need to just focus on one person, because it's getting a little too much. It's getting a little too much. It's getting a little too heavy to do all this juggling, and it's starting to get to the point where it's not fun anymore. It's getting to the point where there's more drama than there is pleasure. And so it's like, okay, I can't go on like this. I want to, because like you don't want to give up any of your options, but you need to. Again, you know, you can't always get what you want. Rolling stones. And it's like, this is a situation where if you don't make the choice on your own, something's going to happen externally in life that's going to make the choice for you. Period. If you are single, not dating, you're going out trying to have a good time with your friends. You're not necessarily going out trying to hook up. This would be like, you know, girls' night out, going out with the guys vibe. It's not necessarily about going out and hooking up. It's more so about just going out and having a good time. Perhaps you are in a situation where you have just recently left a relationship, as I just described. And so you're not trying to quickly jump into another one because you literally just got out of a bunch of drama and you're not trying to deal with that anymore right now. You just want to have a good time, relax, kind of get back in touch with yourself. And that's what you're doing. You're reuniting yourself with yourself. You're getting back in touch with yourself, who you are. You're remembering who the fuck you are. And that's a really good thing. That's a really good thing. So those of you who are in committed relationships already, that you know you need to leave, that you're having a hard time leaving, this is what you have to look forward to. This is what you have to look forward to. Going out, trying to enjoy life, and getting back in touch with who the fuck you are. Because a lot of times in relationships like this, we lose ourselves. In the process of compromising, we start compromising ourselves. It's one thing to make sacrifices and compromises. It's another thing to sacrifice yourself. This is something I try to talk about, or I don't like when I see stuff like this. I try to bring it up and clarify that you should not have to sacrifice who you are innately for somebody else's happiness. If it gets to that point, y'all just aren't supposed to be together, because you will slowly lose yourself and you will become an empty shell. You won't even be who you are, and then you will go through life living your life as this empty shell. And I wouldn't want to live like that. Do you really want to live like that? So it's like, this is what you have to look forward to when you finally find the strength to walk away, getting back in touch with who you really are. Learning to love yourself and appreciate those things about yourself that you completely forgot existed because you sacrificed it. You sacrificed yourself. It's time to move on and get back to you, boo. What is up, Treble Club? Love to you. Thank you so much for showing up and showing love. I appreciate you. All right, let's move on to Sagittarius. What is going on with my Saggies? What kind of energy will Sagittarius encounter over the next week? What is going on with Sagittarius? What kind of energy will Sagittarius encounter over the next week? What's going on with my Saggies? Sagittarius, you have the Ace of Cups. So you're going to be feeling very, very emotional this week. And these emotions are going to be very, very strong. Cannot guarantee that they're all positive. Just got to throw that out there. But if you are feeling love for people, you are feeling an overwhelming amount of love. You just have this wonderful, this great appreciation for the people around you, the people that are closest to you, people that have had your back. You just have this overwhelming appreciation for them. But conversely, for all the times you've been hurt, for all the stress you're under, you know, in situations where you did have this deep love, now you feel this profound sadness. And if you do not allow yourself to feel this profound sadness, it's going to turn into, very quickly, profound anger. Very, very quickly, because you are quick to anger. You are. You get triggered very easily. And sometimes you're not even triggered. Sometimes you're just like popping off, because that's just how you roll. But everything is going to be to the extreme this week. It's going to be very deep. It's going to be very overwhelming. And some of you may be trying very, very hard to detach from these feelings. But it's going to be a very hard battle. It's going to be a very, very hard battle. I'm not going to say you'll lose, but I am going to say it's going to be very, very hard. Okay? That being said, don't give in to the negativity. Taking it back to earlier in the reading, I don't remember which sign I said it with. I think it was Taurus. It was like at the very beginning of the reading. It's like, you choose whether or not to let it ruin your day, or in this case, your week. And I say that, and it may seem casual as I say that, but I don't say it lightly. I don't. I myself am a very sensitive individual. I have intense feelings like this all the time. Okay, it's not just for a week. All the time. How do you think I'm able to do this? You know? But when you're like that, you have to make an active decision to not succumb to the sadness, depression, you know, and it's not easy. It's not always easy, because you feel everything so deeply, so strongly. It's like, it's freaking intense. But it's up to you. It's up to you whether or not you're going to let this drag you down, whether or not you're going to let this, quote unquote, ruin your life. It's your choice on how to handle this. I'm not telling you, if you're sad, don't be sad, and don't feel bad for feeling bad. No, let's not do that at all. I don't want to make anybody feel bad for feeling bad. I'm just saying, you know, you have to actively work not to let yourself wallow there. Don't wallow. It's not a good place to be. It's not a good place to be. Let's see what's going on in your love life, Sagittarius. What kind of energy will you encounter in your love life? And also, if you are like massively overflowing with love, you may be inclined to just kind of like sit back and want to, you know, just wallow in that love, because it's a good feeling. It is a good feeling. But again, you can't. Life goes on. You know, you can't just ignore life. You want to. Sometimes you just really want to, but you can't just like let this rule everything. You still have to deal with the daily functions of living. All right, let's see what is going on in your love life, Sagittarius. What kind of energy will you encounter in your love life over the next week? We have the Wheel of Fortune. Things are changing. Things are shifting in your relationship. Majorly, massively. This is a huge turning point in your relationship. Things are changing. Whether it's for the good or the bad really depends on what's going on in your relationship. But the change is inevitable, because whatever you are feeling and experiencing at this time is times 1,000. It's very intensified. So if you and your partner have been struggling, arguing, just dealing with difficult times, you're at a point where it's like, no more, I can't take this anymore. But that's not necessarily always the case, because it could go the other way as well in other circumstances, where there is finally this breakthrough between you guys. There's finally this understanding that you both have, and it deepens the relationship. It deepens the bond in a way that maybe you didn't ever think would happen before when you first entered into this relationship. Those of you who are dating, you may end up meeting somebody that completely changes your life, like, and the way you see life, the way you want to live life. They have brought something out of you that you did not know was there, and it's not bad. It's not bad. You may have met somebody that you are just head over heels for. Those of you who are single and not dating, you may be finally at a point where you are able to move on from somebody that you have felt this way about in the past. Perhaps you thought this person was your soulmate, you were going to be with them forever, even if you guys separated. Perhaps you thought that you would reunite, that it was inevitable. But you may be getting to a point where you finally understand and accept, okay, that's not going to happen. And I'm okay with it. Because you see now why it didn't work out. Some things have unfolded in life, some things that have happened, and it's clear to you, and you understand and are thankful that it didn't work out. And that completely changes the way you function moving forward in your love life. You are more open and receptive to falling in love with somebody else. Even though you may have not met this person yet, there is this massive change internally that is happening that is clearing the way for that person to come in. So that's good. It's good. All right, let's move on to Capricorn. What is going on with Capricorn over the next week? What kind of energy will Capricorn encounter? What energy will Capricorn encounter over the next week? What's going on with my Cappies? What is going on with Capricorn? Capricorn, you have the Seven of Pentacles. So you may have been having a very difficult time lately in whatever area you're having a difficult time in. But what keeps you going is the tiny bit of progress you see. This little bit of progress gives you just enough hope to keep moving forward, to keep putting time and effort and energy into this. Because you see that even though you feel like nothing is getting done, you do realize that you are making progress. It's very small, you're inching very slowly, it's frustrating, but the progress is there nonetheless. And you know that if you stop putting time and effort and energy into this, well, of course you won't make any more progress. And you would rather do everything you can, push as hard as you can, and things just not really work out, then give up and walk away. Which you may be inclined to do. Like, you may want to, but you know that you'll regret it. You know that you'll regret walking away. There will always be that what if inside your mind if you don't continue and push through. Because again, you are seeing results. They are just very, very small. So this kind of would make me think about, like, say, if you go into an area of studying, you think you're going to have a job, you know, when you leave, you put all this time and energy and effort into learning this trade, and then you graduate or you finish your course, and then it's like, you know, you start looking for jobs and whatnot, but it's not happening. You're not getting hired, you know, and it can be very frustrating. You feel like you're not making progress, but at the same time, there are things that are happening in your life that the skills you have developed through the, you know, whatever process, it's helping you with. So everything that you learned was not a waste, because there are other things in your life that are being influenced positively by this experience. It may not be working out as successfully as you thought it would. You may want to just throw your hands up because it's like, I put all this work in and nothing's happening. And perhaps, you know, perhaps nothing different is happening. But, like, at first glance. But you may be starting to realize that there are certain circumstances in your life that you were handling differently in a better way as a result of all that hard work you put in. So it's like, okay, there was a purpose behind this. I'm going to keep going. That's what keeps you going, is recognizing that this skill set is benefiting you. And it will continue to benefit you. You just have to continue to move forward with it. See what's going on in your love life, Capricorn. What is going on in Capricorn's love life over the next week? What kind of energy will Capricorn encounter over the next week? What is going on in Capricorn's love life? Capricorn, you had the wheel fly out. So big changes. Big changes. There is some sort of understanding and enlightenment that is coming through in regards to your relationship and or love life that completely changes your perspective. Perhaps before you have seen things very negatively. They don't ever seem to be working out. It's very frustrating. You want to get very negative about this. But then something happens and it changes your perspective. It changes your perception. It's like it really just takes a shift in perspective to change your life. Like it can really change your life. Just a simple shift in perspective. And that is happening. There's something that you're finding out or learning about your relationships, love life, that it's changing you. You're seeing things differently. If things keep going awry, you are understanding why. You know, perhaps things haven't been working out the way you want to because you need to put more energy in this other area that you feel like isn't working out. You're seeing results, though. Small, but they're there. So some of you may be at a point where, like, if you're single or even if you're dating people, you may be at a point where it's like you want to focus your energy elsewhere. Your dating life is no longer a priority to you because your perspective is being shifted. You're being guided to put your energy and your focus in other areas. And it's going to be life altering because I feel like with some of you, your love life has been very distracting and possibly has even derailed you from your goals in the past. So, and maybe you're starting to understand that and see that and be like, okay, well, I guess being alone isn't necessarily a bad thing. I guess these relationships not working out isn't necessarily a bad thing because maybe I would not have accomplished this, or I would not have the freedom to do this. Some of you who are in committed relationships, it may have seemed like things were just falling apart. The relationship was on its last leg, but you guys put in a last-ditch effort to save it, and something happens. Something changes. There is some sort of understanding that occurs that leads to growth. And it's small, but it's there, and it gives you hope. It gives you hope that this can work. Whereas before, you didn't have any. Before, you were feeling very negative about the whole situation, and you were on your way out the door. And if you weren't on your way out the door, they were. But something has happened to where you both have a better understanding of things. Excuse me. And it's taking things in a different direction. Instead of y'all leaving each other, you're starting to be like, okay, maybe we can get through this. Maybe we can. There's something worth salvaging here. And you will grow from this. It's going to take time and work and effort, though. But you're willing to put it in. You want to be able to say you did everything you could. And that you tried as hard as you could. You want to be able to say that honestly. Okay, let us move on to Aquarius. What is going on with Aquarius over the next week? What kind of energy will Aquarius encounter over the next week? What is going on with my Aquarians? What is going on with Aquarius over the next week? What kind of energy will Aquarius encounter over the next week? What's going on with my Aquarians? Aquarius, you have the Six of Swords. So you may be traveling. Perhaps you're traveling for work. Maybe going on a road trip to kind of see national monuments or whatever, or just traveling because you want to learn different things about different areas. You want to expand your mind. Perhaps you have been the type of person who has lived in the same area most of your life, and you don't want to be that person. You want to be able to say you experienced a lot, that you've been places. Even if you end up coming right back to, where you have been, you still want to be able to experience life. You don't want to be one of those people that just never did anything, stayed in your hometown forever. And it's like, if you're going to stay in your hometown, you're at least going to get around. You're at least going to travel the country, the world, whatever. Some of you may be moving on from a difficult situation. It really sucks. You dealt with a lot of drama, or you dealt with a lot of difficulty, but you learned a lot. You learned a lot from this situation, and you know that the lessons will benefit you moving forward, so you're taking them with you. You're trying to leave the chaos and the destruction behind while remembering the lessons. It's kind of hard to separate the two, but you're working to do so, because the whole situation, it wasn't like the whole situation was horrible. If it was, you wouldn't have learned these things, or even if it was, you still learn these things. And so it really couldn't be 100% horrible, because as a result, it has led you to where you are or where you're going, and you're going in a good direction, in a positive direction. This reminds me of somebody who's like trying to get a job in a certain profession, and they keep getting denied, and so instead they decide to do their own thing, start their own business, and they end up becoming more successful. and end up on the same level as the people that did not hire them. Next thing you know, you and these same people that rejected you are meeting regularly because you're on the same level. Like perhaps obviously you're all in the same field, but it's like they had boss vibes and you were trying to get hired by them, but they wouldn't hire you. So you started on your own and you were a boss on your own, but then you became so successful that you were on the same level. And maybe even you are starting to rise above. And they're kind of like, well, oh shit. And you're like, well, you had your chance, So it's like you may have encountered difficult situations, but it's going to benefit you in the long run. They had to happen. People say rejection is protection, and I do believe that. I do believe that. It may not be obvious in the moment. When it happens, it may be the end of the world. It may not be obvious in the moment. It may not even matter in the moment because perhaps you were depending on that. But it will become clear why it did not work out. It may take time, but it will become clear. Now, that being said, let's see what's going on in your love life, Aquarius. What kind of energy will you encounter in your love life over the next week? What is going on in Aquarius's love life over the next week? What kind of energy will Aquarius encounter? Aquarius, you have the Two of Swords. So if you are in a committed relationship or even dating somebody, there may have been some sort of misunderstanding. Something has happened to where you guys you aren't on the right page or on the same page right now. And a conversation definitely needs to be had, but you don't know how to bring it up and you don't know how to say it. You want to be tactful. You don't want to say the wrong thing and seem cold. And unfortunately, you do have a tendency to do that. So since you don't know how to handle it and you don't know what to say, you don't know how to address the situation right now, you're just not. There is this stalemate going on while you try to figure it out. It's not like you're going to avoid the situation forever. It's just right now you don't really know what to do or how to address things. Those of you who are single, you're not really, wouldn't necessarily say it's by choice, but you're okay with being single. But what has a huge influence on it is you really don't know how to talk to people. You don't really know how to date. You don't know how to initiate that connection and whatnot. And it's something, since you don't really know how to do it, you're just not doing it. This is not to say that you won't figure it out. I think in time it will become clear to you, but at this point you're just kind of dumbfounded. And I really think that you are focused on where you're going in life in general, because you have dealt with this difficulty, and since you don't really, and you are moving beyond it, and since you don't really feel confident that you really know how to connect with somebody on a romantic level, it is not your priority. Moving forward and working towards what it is that you are trying to achieve is more of a priority. So like you might be more concerned with your career and your stability, etc., education, moving forward, than having a relationship. All right, let's move on to Pisces. What is going on with Pisces over the next week? What kind of energy will Pisces encounter? Damn, this read is a lot longer than I thought it would be. Well, sometimes the messages are short, sometimes they're long. Okay, let's see what's going on with Pisces over the next week. What kind of energy will Pisces encounter? Pisces, you have the Hierophant. So I feel like this is a general energy that's going on too. Like you're really focused on your home life and your stability and making sure you're able to provide for yourself and the people that depend on you, or the fur babies that depend on you. You know, you may be trying to do something by the book. And what I mean by that is, you know, in life, people have certain expectations of how to do things, i.e., you know, childhood, teenage years, meet somebody, or go to college, meet somebody, fall in love, get married, have kids, die. Grow old, die. In general, that's like the general outline that people put out there, you know. And that's kind of what you're focused on right now, you know, like if it's not that general outline, it's still like by the book, you know, it's what is expected of you. So you're really focused on living up to the expectations that people have of you, and not necessarily just other people, but the expectations you put on yourself, because let's face it, you expect a lot from yourself. You really do. Some of you may be signing some sort of contracts. Perhaps, you know, if you're working, it's a contract. It's not like an actual secure long-term job. And that's not really something you want. I think you want a secure long-term job. You want something that you can depend on. You know, you want a career, a long-term career. You don't want to have to sign contract after contract, 6 months, you know, a year, 12, you know, you don't want that. You want stability. You want something that you can count on. You need structure. Like, I need structure in my life. I need structure in my work so that I can build structure in my life, because my life is somewhat dependent on my work. I mean, in this day and age, you know, unless you want to live out on the street, I mean, that's the way it is. That is the way it is. Your life, your lifestyle, your life depends on your occupation or the type of money you generate. Especially in our country, it's getting pretty intense here. Some of you may be dealing with a judge. Perhaps you got to go to court for some reason. Whether or not that's good or bad really depends on your situation. But there's some paperwork that you need to sign. Definitely read through everything before you sign it, because just read the small print, okay? Read the small print. Let's see what's going on in your love life, Pisces. What kind of energy will Pisces encounter in their love life over the next week? What is going on in Pisces' love life over the next week? What kind of energy will Pisces encounter? What's going on with Pisces? Pisces, we have the World. Something is coming to a conclusion. This could be the end of a relationship, the end of a situationship, you know, or, you know, it could be the ending of a phase in your life, in your relationship, maybe a difficult phase. I think in some situations there is a deepening of a commitment, you know, so there is an end coming to that uncertainty. You know, you're finally like taking the relationship to the next level. Some of you may be getting married. You know, the world as you have known it up to this point is coming to an end. You're entering into a new phase in your life. If you are single, you are really trying to wrap things up from the past. You're really trying to clear all that shit out, because you know that if you want to have any chance moving forward of having a successful and happy and loving relationship, the type that you want, desire, that you got to get rid of this past shit, like these issues you have from past relationships. If you carry them with you moving forward, it's just not going to work out. You're going to repeat the same problem over and over again. There's a level of self-awareness that you need to achieve, and you know that. And that's what you're working on. I think you are coming to a period where you are starting to get through those feelings. You're starting to wrap up those things. You may be getting, I feel like you may be getting to a point where you're finally ready to move on. This could potentially be from like, I mean, it's a breakup, but for some of you, it's like a marriage. And if it's not a marriage, it's a relationship that was like a marriage. You know what I was thinking about the other day? You know, because people get married. And then there are some people that don't want to do the marriage thing, but they still want to be in a long-term relationship. And, you know, something you hear often from people whose marriages have stood the test of time is that the way it works is you choose each other over and over again. And I was thinking about it, it's like, well, you know, these long-term relationships where they never get married, that's exactly what's happening. You know, you don't have to stay together. There's no legal contract binding you, but you choose to stay together consistently, you know? And that's a beautiful thing. And that's just as beautiful as a marriage. If anything, I feel like it's even more beautiful because you have the freedom to leave at any time. You know, when you are someone who is married, there is that whole thing of, you know, we are bound together by this contract. You know, I'm yours and you are mine. And that's just the way it's always going to be. And there is no option to leave. It's like you're supposed to be together forever, and a lot of times it does end up in divorce. So it's like, you know, a lot of times you stay out of obligation. People will stay out of obligation. They got married. They want to keep their vows. You know, it's not necessarily a choice. It's an obligation, you know. Whereas if you are in one of those relationships where nobody wants to get married and it lasts, that is so beautiful because you choose each other. You can leave at any moment, but you choose not to. That also may be something that you're coming to realize. Perhaps it's been in your mind that marriage, the Hierophant can represent marriage. And the orthodox way of doing things, perhaps that's what has always been in your mind, your constant perception of what a healthy relationship, long-term relationship is going to lead to. It's going to lead to a contractual marriage. And maybe you're starting to understand that it doesn't always work out that way, and it's not a bad thing. Just because somebody doesn't want to get married, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you won't last. If anything, you know, I feel, and maybe this is just my opinion. This is just my opinion. That if anything, it really shows the strength of the relationship and the bond if you are in a relationship long term and you never get married. Like, I can't help but think of the movie He's Just Not That Into You. A lot of y'all probably haven't seen it because it's a chick flick. So maybe a lot of you have seen it, but there is a character who is wanting to get married. Everybody around her gets married, and like the person she's been with for years, he's one of those people that just never wants to get married. He never wants to get married. And she gets to the point where she's spending so much time focusing on how everybody else she knows is getting married that she decides she's going to leave this relationship. And because he doesn't want to get married. And then some things happen to where she's around these people, you know, because she needs somewhere to stay, who are married more. And she starts to realize that, like, their marriage isn't what it's cracked up to be. Like, she starts to realize that the person she was with was more of a husband than these actual husbands. You know, I think that she actually says almost that exact quote. In the movie, of course, you know, he finally proposes to her because that's how movies are, shit like that. But the point is, you know, she realizes that just because you do not have that marriage contract does not mean you do not have a healthy, wonderful, and beautiful relationship. And I think that's something you're starting to realize, that you do not have to have that contract to have that. And that is definitely going to change things. That's definitely going to change things. Instead of you just being like, nobody's ever going to want to be with me again. I'm never getting married again. Well, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe it's not a bad thing. That typically has a negative undertone when people say that. But maybe it's not a bad thing, because that does not mean that you won't meet somebody. It just means, if anything, it's just going to be that much more beautiful, because you actively choose to be with each other for however long, you know? Because forever is not guaranteed. We see that. All that being said, those are your readings for the week. The next week, I hope they resonate for accuracy purposes, because I really don't wish anything negative on anybody at all. I'm just reading energy, you guys. So for accuracy purposes, I hope they resonate, and I will see you guys again next week. All right, bye.